Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of TechBeans, wherein we try and get experts from across the industries to talk about the latest technology trends and updates. Today's topic is something that all of you will be able to relate to because we all use smart gadgets and we are active across various social channels, wherein we keep creating, storing, and sharing a lot of data. And as they say that in this digital era, data is the new currency. Thus, obviously, there are concerns related to the data privacy and security, which is precisely our topic for today. And to talk about it, we have with us Shivangi Nadkarni, who's the co-founder and CEO of Arrka, a company on a mission to simplify data privacy so every organization becomes privacy compliant. And Arrka is the only end-to-end privacy management platform to be built out of India. On that note, a very warm welcome to you, Shivangi, on this episode of TechBeans.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me on this episode.
Before we move on to the question and answer, let me tell you all a bit more about Shivangi. Prior to co-founding Arrka, Shivangi has worked with renowned organizations such as SIFI and Wipro. She has done her post-graduation in management from IIM Calcutta and her graduation in electrical and electronics engineering from the Birla Institute of Technology and Science. Shivangi is a certified information systems auditor. She is also on the Asia Advisory Board of the IAPP, that is International Association of Privacy Professionals, one of the world's largest privacy body. She is also faculty for advanced privacy courses and a regular speaker at various forums. It doesn't end there. She has co-authored the first textbook on data privacy in India for DSCI, that is Data Security Council of India, which is an ESCOM body. So Shivangi, I'm just wondering if there's anything that you haven't done in the field of data privacy, or is it just the tip of iceberg?
I feel I am just starting in the field of privacy. It is evolving so rapidly that what you've done in the past hardly matters. What is ahead is what is of significance.
Right, rightly said, because as we also understand, the challenges are ever evolving. So maybe when you started 10 years back, the challenges were different, and when 10 years down the line, the challenges would be different. So we'll begin with our question and answer round, Shivangi. So the first question is now, so women in tech is not so uncommon nowadays. Definitely when you started, it was something that was not so common. But now, because we are also an IT services firm, we know that with us, we have a lot of female employees who work with us. So women in tech is not so uncommon, but definitely what is not so common is women in the field of cybersecurity. And you have started your career in this. You have also gone on to start a company in this space. So can you share with us that how did this journey start for you? What was the pivotal moment that led to this journey and the creation of Arka? We would really like to know about that.
Yeah, so I started my career with SPI, which used to be Satyam Infoway. I was the fifth employee, and it was at a time when the word startup wasn't known. It was a startup, and we went on to do some very exciting things. SIFI was the first private ISP in India, and so on. So I got to see a fabulous journey. In 99, SIFI tied up with VeriSign, which was to set up a certifying authority in India. The concept of digital signatures was new. It was coming through as part of the IT Act, and that project was dumped on my lap. And it was my first entry to, I didn't know what encryption was, I didn't know what digital signatures were, I didn't know what was the relevance of that, and I just took it up and ran with it. And it was an exciting phase. We became the first CA in India. Went on to then take on the concept of digital signatures, which today we take for granted. And around that, built a data security practice in SIFI. And it was very fascinating, the whole field. So I started getting more and more into the whole thing. From there, I moved on to Wipro. I ran a global secure application security and identity management practice at Wipro. But while at Wipro, I realized that I am not a large company person. I guess if he spoilt me in some ways. And so I decided to start something on my own. My first venture failed. My second venture failed, and I was very close to, going back to taking up a regular job. And infosec is a very hot. It was very hot then, also, and now also. But then I met my co-founder, who had also just quit KPMG, and so we decided to sort of align forces and started Arka. This was in 2012, and then from there on, we kind of took it forward. We started with wanting to do something in the infosec governance space, but we were also very clear that at some point in time, we wanted to build a platform. We hadn't quit our corporate jobs to run a services business, especially in a domain where demand for people far outstrips supply. And so, a small company running a services business where there's a acute short supply of people was not something which is exciting, was exciting for us. So along the line, in parallel, one of my industry friends told me that you should look at data privacy. It's going to become big. And so in 2011, the IAPP, which is the International Association of Privacy Professionals, was conducting their first exam. First time they were conducting an exam in India, and so I took it on a lark, and I cleared. So I was one of the first few CIPTs in India, and from there on, I just parked it at the side. Then DSCI was starting up, and the founder CEO, somebody I knew from earlier, he called me on board to help them get two of their certifications going, and that's how that was the sort of journey in parallel. In 2016, the GDPR got passed, and so the world was sort of working towards it, and we got our first break in consulting from one of the largest private sector banks in India at a time when we were really tiny, but they wanted to get going on privacy, a very forward-thinking bank. And so we got into actually helping. That was the start of us helping organizations roll out privacy. And from then on, of course, the GDPR hit, so we worked with several organizations in India to help them comply with GDPR, and then from there on, the journey started. Meanwhile, we started building a platform, and in hindsight, we realized at that time we were not thinking so much, but we built a platform for privacy management, knowing that this is an area that's going to boom, and no amount of skilling is going to help. Automation has to be there. So we started building the platform, and therefore, we have India's first and only end-to-end privacy management platform, entirely homegrown, completely built by my co-founder Samir, actually. And so that's where we are as a company.
That's quite an interesting story, Shivangi.
Thank you.
Also, so being a marketing professional, I'm actually curious to know that what is the meaning of Arka?
So Arka actually means sunshine in Sanskrit. The spelling is double R because that's what we got as a URL. But
Okay.
but the meaning is, it means sunshine. So when we started, we didn't want something which meant the usual lock and something on the word security or something on the word privacy. The thought process was that just as the world needs sunshine to thrive, for businesses and the new digital age to thrive, you needed security and privacy is one of the underlying but core factors. So that was the large thought behind.
So will it be right to say that in this deep dark web, Arka is the ray of hope for organizations and individuals like us?
Aspirationally, yes, that is what we'd love to be, but in reality, it requires far more than just one entity to do something.
So moving on to our next question, Shivangi. So while we were doing our research about Arka, what we realized is that data privacy and data security are the terms that people use interchangeably, but technically the two terms are different. So can you explain the difference between the two terms for our audience? Because for us, even till yesterday, even for us, both the terms meant almost the same. So can you simplify the difference between the two?
Sure. So, so first of all, privacy is only about personal data. Okay. If you look at it from an organization's perspective, organization deals with a lot of very sensitive data, which is not personal data, like financials of the organization and inventory, etc. But privacy is only about personal data. So let's assume for a minute that I am dealing with a bank or a telecom company. Okay, note that I'm not using the term social media. Okay, I'm deliberately saying I'm dealing with a bank or a financial services or a telecom company. Okay, so in the course of, let's say, my having a savings bank account with them, I end up giving and sharing a lot of my personal data with the bank, right? I share a lot of data. A lot of data about me gets generated by the bank, right? So your monthly statements, your transaction logs, it is all personal data about me, which is getting generated during the course of my relationship with the bank, right? Now, in return, I expect certain rights and privileges because it's finally my data. So, what are those rights? I want to know. And when I'm saying using the term rights, I'm not using it from a legal perspective. I'm just using it from a overall kind of perspective, right? So, what are those? They are like, I need to, I want to know why are they collecting all the data they collect, right? Do they really need to know, what is my family income to give me a savings bank account, or do they need to know whether I own a four-wheeler or two-wheeler to be able to give me a savings bank account, for example? Okay, what are they using my data for? Are they using it for what I asked, what I'm meant for, or are they using it for some other purposes? Are they sharing it with a third party without my knowledge? Are they tracking and profiling me, right? Are they, for example, sending my data overseas without telling me, and so on, right? And are they keeping it secure? Now, whether you keeping it secure, which is to make sure it doesn't get into wrong hands and people who are not supposed to look at the data don't get a look at it, all of that is what security of my personal data is all about. So that is one aspect of data privacy. Data privacy is all of what I talked about and a lot more. But you're right, people use the term interchangeably, but this is one component of all that data privacy stands for.
Okay, thanks, Shivangi. I think that kind of clears the confusion.
Thank you.
So you have just busted one of the myths that data privacy and data security are not the same. Is there any other common myth or wrong perception that you come across when you talk to organizations or even when you talk to individuals? Is there any other common myth that you would like to bust for us?
Yeah, I would, from an organization's perspective, because we as a company only work with organizations, we help them
Okay.
implement privacy programs, right? So one of the common myths is that, oh, this is a legal problem. There is some law and some set of laws that I have to comply with, and my organization has to comply with, and legal will take care of it. Or that this is a tech problem, or this is a information security department's problem. It is not. It is fundamentally a business problem. Let me illustrate, okay? We just gave an example of, I talked about it from an individual's perspective. Now think about it from an organization's perspective. The privacy laws to protect yours and my interests and our control over our personal data say that you should not collect more data than you require to offer a product or service. You will use it only for those purposes that the user has consented to. You will not share it with third party without my knowledge, without the user's knowledge. You will not track and profile without consent, and so on, right? Now, the point is that this is something which most organizations don't necessarily take care of, right? And if
Hmm.
organizations have to start thinking along this, these are not decisions that a legal team will take, or a tech team will take, or an infosec team will take, right? Only the business can decide, do they really need this data? Are they collecting more than that is required? Only a business can decide that, this is the reason, this is what I've taken consent to, and therefore I will use it only for this purpose. So if you as a user, clearly say that I don't consent to receiving marketing mailers, then the business cannot send marketing mailers, right? Now for that, the business has to take a call. So therefore, it is fundamentally a business problem, and it most organizations don't realize that this is a business problem. It takes a while for the penny to drop.
Right, that completely makes sense, Shivangi. So moving on to our next question. So your journey in this field started quite early, and you have an extensive experience in the same. According to you, how things and or challenges have changed over a period of time, and have things drastically changed post COVID, and also how Arka is positioned to address these new challenges of this digital world.
Yeah. So first of all, when we started, I don't think the world was as digital as it is now, right? Therefore, there is a lot more data about you. I mean, several orders more of data about you and I that is out in the world, and we keep on generating, right? Secondly, therefore, lots of governments around the world have woken up and have passed privacy laws, dedicated privacy laws, as well as inserted privacy into various other laws as well. Let me give you an example. Today, so India was the 138th country in the world to get its law, which was passed in August of 23. Okay, so 137 countries before us had a law, and that does not include the US. Okay, so just think about it. So literally everywhere that you do business with, okay, you have to ensure that the privacy of the individual who's residing in that country is protected, right? So when this happens, the things that, so therefore the quantum has gone up. Even though, so another example is, let's say for example, you're a health tech company that is going into the North America market and wants to get into the US market. So while the US, as I said, does not have a horizontal privacy law, they have privacy embedded into various other laws. So for example, the FDA regulations require the health tech company to be able to comply with certain privacy and security norms, right? So it's embedded in other laws. Similarly, banking laws have, healthcare laws have. So all of this means that an organization really has to worry about what and how and where they use and how they protect their personal data that they're sitting on, whether directly or whether they're a back-end processor, a B2B company, they're all dealing with personal data.
Okay. And does Arka cater to large organizations also, or is it primarily a platform for SMEs, or it caters to both the segments?
So, as an organization, we cater to all segments. So, I like to say that our smallest customer is a 10-person company, and our largest customer is 150,000 people strong company. Okay. So, we cater to the whole thing, but we have very different approaches and strategies. Our MSME customers are on our platform, there's a different team that works with them. And we have our large enterprises. Some of them are, we cater to groups. So, we work at the group level for across multiple entities in a group. So we have a different team and a different approach and a different focus for large enterprises. Our platform is for organizations till about 3,000 people strong companies. After that, we kind of say that the complexities are much more. And so one is the platform. Then we have a lab. We do privacy testing. We run an academy where we do training, and then we have a whole bunch of other things.
Okay. So you just told us some of the new age challenges of related to data privacy and security. Now, one of the key concerns that I or several digital consumers have is the fact that nowadays the smartphones are listening to our every conversation, and then we are shown advertisements basis the data that they collect. So previously it was only maybe my Gmail account that was getting scanned, and basis that I was shown ads. But nowadays, what we have seen is whenever we are having conversations, immediately after that or the next day, we start to see advertisements related to those conversations, which means obviously whatever we are talking is getting recorded. And as a digital consumers, now we are worried that today it is the mic and tomorrow it can be the camera. Okay, so and because you are there on several panels related to data privacy and security, you must be knowing a lot of people from the industry. So, do you guys also see this as one of the big concerns nowadays? And how can an end consumer like us tackle this issue and stay safe? Can you tell us a
Oh,
bit about that?
yeah, yeah. Oh, this is a huge concern, not just of us, of Arka. This is a huge concern around the world. The whole, challenge of Cambridge Analytica that happened 6 years ago was all centered around this only. And it's just become more and more, exacerbated, so to say. So, yes, we have apps on our phone. Every app takes permissions. A lot of permissions are considered what are called dangerous or high risk permissions, like access to your microphone, access to your camera, etc. And so all of these are constantly recording, whatever you're saying. Then there are trackers and cookies on your website. So when you are visiting a particular website, there are not only that organizations trackers and cookies, but there are a host of third parties whose trackers and cookies are monitoring what you do. Similarly, on your phone, you have a host of third party SDKs which are embedded in the app that you will never figure out. And they get access to all data that is collected from the permissions that the app takes. And then that is further sort of shared. I've done a few years ago, I did a TEDx talk actually on this, which explains in detail how this happens, right? And at the back end, there is a huge ad tech industry. And mind you, this is legitimate businesses. We're not talking cybercrime. Okay. These are legitimate businesses, some of them listed, who are actually dealing with yours and my data. There's a concept called real time bidding that happens, where in a
Right.
RTB, real time bidding for your time happens. So if you visit a website and then the website knows that you have come there immediately, so if you see ads pop up after half a second's pause, right? Because that half a second is where the real time bid has happened for your time on that website, and someone's come in, and then based on that, has that ad has been delivered to you. Okay.
Right.
So this is something which everybody is heavily coming down upon. We at Arca actually run an annual study. And we release it every year on Jan 20th, which is World Data Privacy Day. So we've done 7 editions till now. We've been tracking about 100 organizations, not social media, not something which is a non-Indian app. So we're just tracking regular organizations in finance, telecom, shopping, gaming, newspapers, all of these, and how much of permissions SDKs are embedded. So you can see the numbers are massive, and they're growing in India. I mean, more than close to 75% organizations take, and it's iOS or Android both. Huh? People tend to, by the way, think that if they have a
I know.
iOS phone, that they're very smart. They think they're sorted. They're not. Apple does a whole bunch of things for privacy, but it's at the OS level. At the app level, there's nothing that they can do. So about
Okay.
70 to 75%, I don't have the last year's figures in front of me, apps take access to your precise location. Now you have to remember that the operating systems give an option of taking what is called approximate location and precise location, right? So for a
Right.
taxi hailing app, they need to know your precise location because they're coming to pick you up. Why does a
Right.
gaming app need to know your exact location? Why does a media app need to know your exact location? But they do. They all of them take precise permission. I mean, as I was saying, close to 70-75%. The story doesn't end there. Google and Apple both have, they've come down very stringent privacy policy. So one of the things is, when you're loading your app on the Play Store or App Store, you're supposed to declare all the permissions you take. Okay. So
Right.
last year, in our study, we actually went and saw what is declared on the Play Store and App Store versus what is actually there, what the app is actually doing. And we saw that while about 78% take, let's say, access to precise location, only around 25-30% of them declare that they're taking access to precise location.
Okay.
So what you see as listed on the Play Store or App Store is highly in doubt whether that is the reality. The reality is something different. So the reality is that no matter which website you visit, there are trackers and cookies tracking you, or third parties. With no matter which app you download, there's a host of people who are tracking you from there. So you have to be very careful, and you and I as individuals have no control over it.
Okay, so like you mentioned that these are all legitimate businesses, and maybe so even the practices you can call them as legitimate as well. So as an end consumer, is there anything that we can do? I mean, obviously the apps give us option to a certain extent of whether we want to share the data or not. But I mean, being from the digital marketing background, even I understand that how this is also helpful for the end consumers, because when I get to see relevant ads, I'm also able to take informed decisions. So, but obviously there are, I mean, it's all about drawing the fine line between the two. So, I mean, as an end consumer, how can I protect my privacy? And are there any precautionary measures that I can take apart from just reading through the privacy document, which obviously most
Yeah.
of us don't, and we just I mean, put the tick mark and we accept the terms and condition and then we move on. I
Yeah.
mean, apart from that, is there anything else that an individual do, or is there nothing that we can do?
Yeah. So I'm going to, address the first part of what you said, and then I'll come to what we can do as individuals. See, as a marketer, right? You rightly said, this is part of what helps you give more finer sort of offering to the customer. Problem is,
Correct.
privacy doesn't say don't do it. Okay, the concept of privacy is that you have to give the consumer choice, right? You may
Correct.
be I may be someone who loves getting offers, loves to know, if I'm walking past a shop, I love to get an SMS that says, hey, there is a promo happening in the shop, right? You may be someone who doesn't want to do anything. You don't want to be tracked. Today neither of us has a choice, right?
Right.
So it is about choice, it is about consent, it is about making sure that whatever you do it transparently, do it with the consent of the user, and give the choice to the user, right? Don't take the user for granted. That is what that's the crux of, or the spirit of privacy. Coming to, therefore, what do you do as end users? Obviously, you don't have to read the privacy notice, because that's not something which anyway you have a choice, right? You have to say
Right.
yes and move ahead if you have to use the app. But do take a look, for example, at the permissions. Turn off permissions wherever you can. That to some extent protects you. Not, I wouldn't say to any great extent. And overall, just be mindful of your digital presence, right? Don't randomly
Right.
download any second app that you see. I know this goes against the grain of, for you as a marketer, because of all the incentives that we have to download an app, right? 500 rupees off, you download the app, you will get 10% off on your next purchase, stuff like that, right? Those are all incentives to download the app, because once you download the app, the amount that you're constantly then, trackable, right? That's not something, that's why, but very few consumers realize that. So I always say, spring clean your phone once in a quarter at least, if not once a month. Delete the apps that you don't use, right? So that's the only thing you can do, and then hope for, the law to kick in. So for example, I was in Europe a month ago speaking at a privacy conference. There you go, there is, Google actually asks you, right? These are the things that we do, this is what, so before you log on to a Google search, there are a whole bunch of things, because there is GDPR, there are other laws, not just the GDPR, right?
Okay.
Nothing of that sort happens in India, right? So these are the kind of things that, therefore, we have to, until the law and, organizations catch up with the law, these are a few things we can do to protect ourselves.
So basically, it is also the responsibility of the individuals to how responsibly they have to use the apps and the smart gadgets that they use, right?
I wouldn't say it is the responsibility of the individuals. It is actually, unfortunately, fallen on the shoulders of an individual
Individual to do
because
so.
the organizations are doing nothing. Okay, this is like
Mhm.
saying that you are living in a polluted area. Okay, there are industries spewing forth chemicals. Unfortunately, there is no law that stops them. So if you are living in that area, you have no choice but to install, purifiers at home, because you have to survive, right? We are in an
Right,
equivalent position in the digital world over there. You are forced to do this because there is no one else watching out for you.
right. Okay, so Shivangi, my last question to you is, we have several tech enthusiasts and budding IT professionals who follow our handle.
Okay.
What advice would you give them if they wish to build a career in cybersecurity or data privacy? Is there a particular stream or course that they should pick? And we also read about Arka's Academy, so what you call as Academy. So can you tell us a bit about that as well?
Sure. So please, first of all, understand that cybersecurity and data privacy are two independent streams. Okay. So, and both are very deep. So you pick whatever you want to. Okay. But pick whatever you do and go deep into it. Okay.
Right,
Privacy has many nuances to it. There are lawyers who are specialists in privacy. There are folks like us who help implement privacy, and there is a lot of depth to it. Do a lot of get into it, get certifications are not the be all and end all. You have to constantly keep yourself updated. Literally every day you wake up and there's something new happening. So take a look at that, get into it. And there is, yeah, Academy, for example, has courses from high end organizations like DSCI and IAPP. We offer some certified programs. Those are expensive, right? But you can then try and do some user courses. There are, we're launching a baseline foundational course in January, which is something which will give you an overview of the DPDPA, which is India's bill, and so on. So these are ways that you can get in. There's a huge shortage of privacy professionals, right? Because our country is just starting on its journey, and I think all the existing privacy professionals put together don't even meet 0.001% of the requirement of the country. Okay, forget the world, and even worldwide, huge requirement. So get into this. If you get into this field, there is, the sky is not a limit kind of thing. But it is also a steep learning curve. And when you get into it, please be prepared that you will take at least 2 to 3 years to really sort of get your arms around it and start contributing, right? It's not something where a course kar liya and then you're an expert. It's not that. That's
okay. And people from any stream or background can get into this, or I mean, is there any
all.
particular?
No, I would say anybody, you should have familiarity with systems, with IT, with digital. It helps because finally you're dealing, all the personal data that you're dealing with resides on, in a form of, in a digital form, right? But it
Right.
can be anybody, anyone from any background. We at Arca, in fact, have people from a variety of backgrounds who have become consultants. No,
Okay.
a lot of them are not at all technology folks.
Okay. So I think that's going to benefit our community as well.
Okay.
So this brings us to the end of this interesting conversation. I personally found it to be very insightful, and I'm sure that there are several takeaways for our audience as well. Thank you once again, Shivangi, for taking the time out from your busy schedule, and we wish you as well as Arka a very all the best.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you for having me over.
Thank you, Shivangi.